Hey soldiers, the IRS just dropped a bombshell. They're coming after you if you withhold one thin dime from them. You know that they got funding to hire 80,000 agents. Well, that's nothing compared to what they just announced in terms of tax enforcement. We're going to talk about it because as soldiers of finance, you need to know what's going on. Now, I know as a soldier of finance, you've subscribed to this channel and you're a true soldier, you pay your taxes, okay? You don't mess around. You don't even view the IRS as an adversary. Soldiers of finance view the IRS as a partner because there's so much in that tax code that can benefit us legally. So why try to cheat, right? I don't advise it. In fact, I always say, figure out how much taxes you legally owe. Write the IRS a check for that amount plus $1. Go ahead. I was telling somebody about this the other day and they were like, oh, so you treat them like the mob. I said, I sure do. I pay my protection money. You know why? Because even though I don't agree with how the money's spent in most cases, especially at the federal level, that is something that I'm not willing to end up in a jail cell or end up in a situation where I've got all these tax levies and I really can't make a dime. I'm out here as a slave, basically working for the IRS. I don't want that kind of smoke, all right? I'll be straight up honest with you. So pay your taxes. Now, for those of us who have a different perspective, I want you to know that the IRS just announced that they're going to start using artificial intelligence to help them ferret out every half cent, okay? Every wooden nickel that they think you owe. And they're gonna get it, okay? Remember, soldiers of finance, we never do anything that's gonna take us out of the mode where we can be productive and making money. And sitting in a federal prison making $2 a day, banging out license plates, doesn't sound too productive to me. The IRS launches sweeping historic tax enforcement crackdown using artificial intelligence. Now remember, the income tax has not been with us for the whole 230 some odd years as a country. It's relatively new, started up in 1913. At one point, the top tax rates topped 90%, okay? Incredible, I know. Right now, we're top tax rate around 37%, 35, 37%, I can't remember, but somewhere in there, okay? That's going up once those Trump tax cuts expire. The IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, has announced that thanks to a new funding boost, it's launching a sweeping historic tax enforcement initiative using AI and other cutting-edge technologies to catch tax evaders more effectively. There is a sea change taking place at the IRS in every aspect of our operations. This is a quote. That what I just read is a quote from the IRS Commissioner, Danny Werfel. He made that statement on September 8th, which notes that the tax agency has completed a top to bottom review of its enforcement efforts and is girding to catch people, quote, abusing the nation's tax laws, unquote, thanks in part to cutting edge tech. Now, you got to understand, guys, this nation is $32 trillion in debt. We're not counting the unfunded liabilities of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, military retirements, not even counting that. With $32 trillion in debt, they basically have eliminated the debt ceiling until 2025. They're spending like there's no tomorrow, projected to be $50 trillion in debt by the early 2030s. Guys, look, they're coming after the money, all right? And this is why if your financial advisor is not talking to you about reducing future taxation legally, you need to have a serious conversation with them as to why they're not discussing that, okay? Because the debt is rising. We've got inflation that is going to be persistent. This is going to be with us. There's no going back to pre-2020 where we had lower prices and inflation wasn't as, pernicious. No going back, guys, okay? Inflation is increasing. Now, true, it is increasing by a slower pace, but it's still increasing. If you're driving it, I've given this analogy before. If you're driving down the highway and you got your foot on the gas, you're doing 80, all right? You're halfway down to the floor. You're doing 80, okay? And you decide that, there's a police officer in the rear view. I'm going to take my foot off this pedal a little, and now you're doing 50, okay? You're still moving forward. You're not going into reverse. Inflation is not increasing at the pace it was a year, 18 months ago, but it is still increasing. You have never known a set of prices to go down, okay, over time. You look at any chart, any graph of any item, and the price of it has marched up steadily. And with the Fed, if they go back in and lower interest rates, it's going to kick inflation up even more. So you're dealing with inflation. You're dealing with taxation, okay? Double whammy there. So, and you've only got, so much money in your pocket, right? So again, if your financial professional is not talking to you about mitigating legally, using that tax code to your advantage, you need to have a serious conversation with that individual. And I will go forward and say, if you want to take a look at some alternatives that will help you to save on future taxation, some of the provisions in the tax code to help you do that, you can do two things, one of two or both. You can become a member here on the Soldiers of Finance channel, hit the join button, find out more. You can also go to our website, cenow.com, and look, you got inflation, you got taxation, and you got rising debt. If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt, check out mcenow.com/get debt free. All right. If you let this trifecta of things that are going to sap your power to purchase assets, if you just let them run wild, I feel so sorry for you. Your economic future will not be bright. The changes, these IRS changes that they're making, will be driven with the help of improved technology as well as artificial intelligence that will help the IRS compliance teams better detect tax cheating, identify emerging compliance threats, and improve case selection tools to avoid burdening taxpayers with needless no-change audits, Mr. Werfel said. So he threw in one, make it sound good, and we're going to do this too, might cut down on audits. But I want you to pay particular attention to that second one. Identify emerging compliance threats. That to me sounds like, you ever see Minority Report with Tom Cruise? That sounds like what they're going to be doing is looking at data, and this AI is going to help them make judgments as to whether or not you are predilected to try and cheat the system. So don't do it, okay? The new enforcement thrust is set to focus on higher earning Americans and big corporations. Now don't let that fool you, okay? Because the fact of the matter is, lower income people are audited more than the wealthy. And the reason that is because the IRS doesn't want to spend a lot of time dealing with an army of accountants and tax attorneys. They want to go after the little fish who is putting too many daggone dependents on the thing that he doesn't have and that sort of thing, because you don't have the money to fight them. You don't have the resources for a protracted legal battle with the IRS. So that's why they audit the poor and middle class much more than they do the rich. So never let that fool you. Never let statements like, we're going to focus on higher earning Americans. Yeah, higher than $10,000 is what they mean by that. They want every dime. With the IRS pledging not to increase audit rates for people earning less than $400,000 per year. Yeah, right. Because that's where the money is. They're not, if you believe that they are pledging to just turn a blind eye to any malfeasance under $400,000 in income, then I have a bridge to sell you. Guys, don't trust this government, okay? And get yourself jammed up. This has been an oft-repeated promise in the face of Republican assertions that working class taxpayers would be subjected to tougher enforcement thanks to the tens of billions of dollars in additional IRS funding. As part of the new enforcement crackdown, the tax agency said that it would prioritize cases involving taxpayers earning over $1 million, but with recognized tax debt of more than $250,000. The IRS said that as it expands its efforts to target higher earning Americans, it has already identified 1,600 or so millionaires who owe hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. So this is the marketing effort. Millionaires and billionaires, look, we're going to stick it to them. And then, some poor schlub feels comfortable in, not paying the IRS what he really owes them. And then, I'll be okay because I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a billionaire. They're going after those types. 6 months later, he gets a letter in the mail from the IRS saying, hey, we want to talk, okay? We got some things to talk about. You never want to be on the receiving end of anything like that. So, as I have said on this platform many times before, future taxation is going to get pretty darn hefty because of the debts that we owe. Every chicken is coming home to roost, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we'll keep an eye on it. At the end of the day, I want you to really internalize this notion. The IRS can be a powerful partner in helping you build wealth, or they can be your absolute worst enemy. I was talking to my father. He's a U.S. Marine, retired. And we were laughing because we were saying, the Marines, all they can do is kill you. The IRS, whole different ball game, guys. Watch this video right here. We're talking about more inflation in the form of OPEC deciding to cut back on output. Take a look at how that's going to impact you. Guys, I'll talk to you soon.